Welcome back to the Voices of Venture Muse Club, where we explore everything that goes into building a cult consumer brand. And today's episode is all about e-commerce. And I have brought two founders together who have built very impressive businesses and taken completely different approaches to their distribution strategy. Roslyn here is the founder of a fashion-forward pet accessories brand, Furry Muse. She has amassed a very impressive following over the last year. Quentin runs a whiskey accessories business called The Rocks, and he has taken a completely different approach, starting on Amazon, scaling through paid ads, and eventually landing massive wholesale and duty-free deals. And if this show brings you value, the best way to support it is by rating it, leaving a review, and sharing it with a fellow founder or operator. It means the world to me. So without further ado, thank you for being here. Welcome, Roslyn and Quentin. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Super excited to jump into it.
Roslyn, what inspired you to start your brand, and what is the itch that you were trying to scratch with Furry Muse?
Furry Muse is a fashion-driven pet accessories brand, really driven by the principle that our pets are our modern-day muse. So they deserve nothing but the very best quality. And at the same time, Furry Muse is inspired by cultural moments, such as online trends, fashion trends, and we try to be super innovative with our product design. It was inspired by my Doberman Lola. My husband and I were reflecting on our journey 6 months into having her as a puppy, and we found that there were a lot of legacy brands that didn't necessarily have the most aesthetically appealing products, even though they were super functional. And on the other hand, we also had a lot of trendy brands, mainly targeted at smaller dog owners who didn't really have the same durability needs as medium or large dog owners. So I really wanted to bridge that gap and create something really exciting for Gen Z and millennial pet owners.
That's awesome. And how about you, Quentin? What was the inspiration behind your brand?
I started on a different path because I think when I started, I had no idea what this was going to be. My background in terms of when I started was the Amazon ecosystem. A lot of the time, the Amazon sellers would just look at the next opportunity, kind of dig into niches and try to just put up a product listing and kind of make it, right? So when I started my current brand, I also started 4 other brands and all of them failed. That's why I think I had no idea that this was the one, but I've always wanted to have my own brand and be successful with e-commerce. Today, we are the leading whiskey stone brand on the market. We cater to whiskey drinkers, but also the more advanced connoisseurs, as we say. And we also have a huge business in the gifting space, merchandise, swag, all around personalization for corporate companies and the broader gifting market.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you decided to launch a few different brands, and then Rocks was the one that ended up performing. Can you take me back to the first product? What was it, and how did you get that very first sale with Rocks?
Yeah, with Rocks Whiskey Chilling Stones, we launched the first one, which was the original Rocks. It's the hero product. It's a set of 6 whiskey stones on a wood tray. Essentially, you replace your ice cubes with a granite rock that you put in your freezer overnight before, and it allows you to taste your spirits with no dilution. So for some of the advanced drinkers and passionate people, this is a good accessory to have. When I started, it was just Amazon. We got our first sale through the Amazon marketplace in the US. And from there, we expanded globally on Amazon.
And Roslyn, how about you? Can you take me through creating your first product and how did you get the first sale for Muse?
Compared to Quentin, Muse is still such a new business and we're very much discovering our first steps. I pretty much worked on the first collection, the first drop on my own, even like hand sketching ideas, bringing together fabrics, mood boards, and developing them with our suppliers. In terms of getting our first customers, we have primarily focused on social media. We are super brand driven, influencer and community driven. And of course, as a marketer through and through, I care a lot about the marketing fundamentals as well, SEO, and the whole suite of marketing tactics available.
Can you talk me through your thinking as a founder with a marketing background? Like, what was your launch strategy, or did you figure it out as you go?
Yeah, so launching a business is really challenging. This is my second business. The last one was also in e-commerce 10 years ago, and it hasn't gotten any easier. I find the landscape to be super competitive, not just in the pet space. It was tough. We actually faced massive supplier delays, and I really didn't want to postpone the launch any further. What I did is to sort of warm up the Instagram account by posting content, trying to make as much content as possible with the samples I had, and starting to to run test ads for any product concepts. Then as soon as we had the physical products, we immediately started with influencer gifting. We started producing as much strong creatives as possible so we could kickstart the testing process. Launching, honestly, was a bit haphazard. I wish I had the time to do it better, but it felt like we were racing against time, managing supplier timelines and so on.
Yeah, and of course, I can imagine being a founder of a product business. You have to start generating cash very early on because you put money into the inventory, the marketing, creating content, even doing influencer gifting. I used to run an influencer marketing agency back in the day. I know that itself is a very costly thing. So you're faced with the pressures to start generating revenue and cash very early.
Yeah, I think the first 3 to 4 months post-launch were the most challenging, because with the first drop, we had so much uncertainty about which products would do well. The moment we realized that we had a product that would potentially go viral and be very well received by our audience, we started doubling down on that. So immediately I worked on releasing 4 more colors for that product, ensuring that we're able to really cater to the needs of our audience. Pretty much 3-4 months in, we also had an active enough community to help shape product decisions. So from then on, we actually just started polling our customers on stories, sending surveys to understand what to develop next, which I find super exciting. In the lead up to launching your business, you have no clue what products to sell, but 3 or 4 months in, your customers are telling you, please make this. Make it in a smaller size, in a different color, in this material. I find that super helpful and super cool that we are able to build a brand like this today.
It's awesome because you have taken a really community-forward approach. This is always what I preach. Try to get to a stage where your community is involved enough that you can actually involve them in the product creation process. That way, it builds a stronger community around your brand because they get emotionally invested into you, and it's really awesome.
I think that's 100% the best way to launch new products, to poll your customers, like you said. And then for your launches, it's also the cheapest launches, because your customers already know that you're doing that and they wanted that, right? So in comparison perhaps to the marketplace model where we kind of just launch products and have to spend so much money to, get reviews and rank, you're launching a product that can sell out in the first week. And I think that's something that I did not do in our kind of brand history. And if you have that community power, it's probably one of the most fulfilling feelings as well, because you're really delivering a product that people have, generally asked you to do, and they just love it. So that's really cool.
And so how did you go about marketing Rocks, and what was your strategy?
There's obviously very different phases depending on when the business was growing. In the very first 2 to 3 years, I was only on Amazon. So it was Amazon paid ads, all sorts of strategies and the classic Amazon type strategies to rank, to get reviews with inserts and all the traditional stuff that we hear. Once you rank on Amazon and once this is pretty much done, you have to look beyond, right? Growing the brand for me was tough because outside of Amazon, I couldn't actually use Meta ads. My personal profile was temporarily banned because we have a product that is a gift set in the cigar theme. So there's no tobacco, but they flagged it as tobacco. Long story short, I've never been able to run more than 1,000 euros ads on Meta. So getting, customer acquisition metrics and all these things is something I had to kind of put on the side for years, actually. So growing through B2B, growing through wholesale, and finding horizontal scaling instead of vertical, whereas we would expand geographically, expand on every single channel and marketplace we could get in. That makes sense. That is quite a contrast. It's a lot of additional burdens from tax perspectives, logistics perspectives, but it's about finding ways to do without Meta for us, at least until now.
Would you say your decision to go into wholesale was forced by the situation because you can't run ads on Meta, like Facebook and Instagram is basically off limits?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, but for us, our product range doesn't allow enough room for performance ads in the US specifically to work profitably. So even if we're just churning our inventory, today our product range is relatively small. We have about 20 SKUs. So it doesn't give us enough depth to get repeat, orders, etc. I think if you have that brand that perhaps with the different colors, the sizes, if someone has multiple dogs at home, we are not in that case. So that's been a very big challenge. Wholesale or any other channel, is a must, right? We had no option.
And what's your take on that, Roslyn?
To your point, I'm really interested to explore wholesale. It's top of mind for this year as part of our distribution strategy. Being able to work with some premium retailers, let our customers touch and feel the products in person would be super exciting. I've already had customers asking like, hey, do you guys have like stockists in like Toronto? Do you have stockists in like LA? And I think it's super important, especially given sizing and fit is so challenging for dogs. So that's something I'm looking into. To your point in terms of channels, I think for D2C businesses, like the D2C hype is kind of dead, right? Like it's not that easy to raise a whole ton of money, build a very big brand, do an IPO, and immediately take away the profits as a founder. I think that kind of model of D2C is kind of dead. And we're really focused on growth at the moment. So what that means is that I'm prioritizing building a strong brand and strong customer loyalty so that we're able to get LTV to a healthy level. Of course, having good product development is the backbone of that. Being able to have interesting mixes to increase basket size, new releases, complementary colorways, new sets in order to, increase the chance of a repeat purchase. I monitor the repeat purchase rate as well for customers. Right now, it's good. It's not where I want it to be yet, but I'm confident that within the next 6 months to a year, I'll get it to where I want to be. That's because, we built a brand that is so truly unique, that is really resonating with a specific audience of like dog parents that are just willing to spend all their disposable incomes on their pets. It's true because I'm one of them, right? Like my dog is my baby. So it's a really emotional thing. But at the same time, you can justify it because you do need some functional accessories for your pet.
No, 100%. I definitely feel what you're saying, that your dog is your baby. Before I had my actual human child, my cat was my everything. I remember telling my husband, I don't think I will ever love anything more than this cat. And you spend so much money on it. It's definitely a very emotionally driven niche. It's very nice that you built it in a community-driven way because it's such an emotionally charged space. You mentioned that you monitor your repeat purchase rate. What are the metrics that you really pay attention to and how do you monitor them?
I'm definitely quite a numbers-driven marketer. So I pay attention to the whole marketing funnel. For example, number of website visitors, number of add to cart, reach checkout, conversion rates. And then on each marketing channel, I monitor everything closely. On the meta end, that would be not just conversion rates, but also just ROAS and click-through rates, CPMs. In terms of returning customers, I do measure on a monthly basis how many new customers we've had and how many returning we have. And then because it's a challenge for the nature of the business, I also do have to monitor returns rates really closely and feed that into the product development process.
And how about you, Quentin?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have a seasonal business because we are in gifting. We see ROAS on Google, for example, go from 1 to 2 all the way to 10. In the Christmas, December weeks. Does it mean that the campaign doesn't work when the ROAS is at 1 in maybe middle of April? Actually, no. It's the same thing on Amazon. There's a point where I think you cannot optimize past a certain level where it actually makes any huge difference anymore. You can always optimize, but the majority is already there. So what we looked at is how can we get recurring business without that traditional B2C space. For us, that was retailers, because retailers, even if it's a gifting item or a glassware, they will be good customers for us and they'll come back, 5 times, 8 times, 10 times a year with larger baskets as well. And so that's how we found our way to get recurring revenue and adapt really the market fit or the product fit, I should say, to our real customer in terms of the recurring side of the business revenue.
Oh, it's fascinating. You see the real compare and contrast between both of your models and how different founders approach challenges and find ways to come out of it. To your point about the return on ad spend being higher and lower different times of the year, I saw this interesting fact that for Coca-Cola, more than half of their customers buy Coca-Cola only once a year. So all of the ads that you're running, you don't actually know how long is the decision span, right? So like the ads that your customer sees in April might actually still contribute to a purchase in December, but because they might think, oh, actually this could be interesting for a gift from my dad or a gift from my brother or whoever. Plus someone needs to experience the touch point with your brand like 7, 8, 10 times before they actually make a decision. So I think it still all makes sense.
But I do think when you're starting out or even 10 years later, every dollar counts. It's very hard because you have to make the right decisions that are really going to put the business in the right direction, but you cannot afford to waste a lot of ad budget. At the same time, because of the nature of e-commerce, you also still have to test everything, right? We are constantly testing every year new things. This particular last years, we've done a lot of postal, so mail, direct mail.
Oh, like actually sending.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and it works. It works really well, surprisingly. Everyone receives emails nowadays, so in certain regions, if you do receive a physical letter, it works. Even better in B2B. Retailers pay more attention if they have a physical shop to what they're receiving. It's a great way to engage with them again, specifically, like you said, maybe every 6 months, or if they didn't place any order in a year, then just saying hi in a different way, because if they unsubscribe, then you want to still get in front of them.
Oh, that's fascinating. I've actually seen interesting statistics on using different channels in the US that TV is taking off. The return on physical TV ads is now higher, and it's absolutely crazy how we've almost gone full circle when it comes to the channels. It's gone from like TV and radio to physical mail to social media, and now we're going back to the roots because the social media is so saturated. You need to find more creative ways. You actually end up going back to what used to work. Roslyn, how do you approach pricing, customer service, and retention across your channels? You mentioned that you closely monitor return rates. Like, how do you fold that into your pricing strategy?
Yeah, I would say returns at the moment for us is very informative for product development. It's important to know why people are returning the item. And honestly, in our case, most of the time, it's sizing. So I'm constantly figuring out ways to not only improve on the sizing for new batches, but also improving our education process on how to measure your pet, as well as how to get the right fit. So I think this is a challenge for a lot of fashion businesses. You have to estimate your amount of returns from the onset and build it into your unit economics. When I release a new product, I have this template that I just applied. Like, okay, here's my target retail price. And that template has everything from shipping and handling, expected returns, and then I set a target profitability as well. And then it'll spit out what ROAS is needed to reach that target profitability. So I sort of do this. It's almost like napkin math for any new product release to see how to bundle it, and how to sort of present it in a way so this new product is as profitable as possible. So recently we've been doing a lot of smaller accessories as well that can be paired with the main like harness and leash set, because I find that's really helpful for making the orders more profitable, and they don't cost that much more to ship. So that's been really cool. So things like dog tags, little clips, and accessories are very natural to our business. And I want to do more of those for sure.
Wow, that's fascinating. Quentin, what's your approach to pricing, given that you have a very different model?
Yeah, with pricing, we are in 35 countries. That is obviously the Amazon side, but also from a wholesale perspective, there's over 1,000 retail stores that carry the brand. So that is another layer. And then the last layer is duty-free. We are in travel retail. And with travel retail, pricing is super important for them to control on the domestic side for them, right? So, because they always want to have a cheaper price for travelers traveling airport or ferries or airlines. So we're trying to make sure pricing is aligned globally, but it's inevitable that today with all the e-com platforms and so many rogue traders, as we call them, are going to list your products online somewhere. You have no idea who they are and how did they even get the product. Most of them are just drop shipping from Amazon and listing the product in another country. So it's tough. But ultimately, I think if you're sticking to your brand values and if you do right by your customers and always represent your products fairly priced for everyone globally as much as possible by taking into account all the different fees and logistics that could impact that bottom line for retailers or customers, I think most customers are completely understanding that not every region can maintain same prices. And I would not say that it's been an issue for us. So we try to do that. Retention-wise, I would just maybe mention the back end, email back end, the entire infrastructure or engine of a Shopify website, anything from email marketing to coupons to every single emotional connection you can create with your customers on the B2C side, you should initiate.
Oh, that's fascinating. And switching the gears a little bit, in growing Rox as your business, what would you say was your first real breakthrough moment for the business when you're like, wow, this can really be big and this is something that's really happening, and what sort of made it work for you?
I think for me, it was probably in the beginning on Amazon because a lot of the Amazon sellers tend to be treating Amazon as a side business and are usually still employed with a full-time job. I've been full-time since day one, so I had no plan B. The moment I saw some good volume and things were working, I doubled down on it. I also think Amazon and marketplaces in general bring a really clear path to show you how to do it or how to make it. It's just step one, step two. It's very straightforward. So if you can replicate it, it was easy.
I have a question for Quentin as well, because you're mostly on Amazon and then you mentioned email marketing. So how much of the sort of, are you doing your own Shopify store as well?
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's a
absolutely.
mix of both, but predominantly Amazon.
Amazon is only about 40% of our sales today.
Okay.
So I used to be an Amazon seller. I'm far from an
okay.
Amazon seller today.
So you started off, grew the brand on Amazon,
Correct.
and then started doing D2C and retail.
Shopify, Google Ads, we spend on Google Ads every year, driving traffic directly to the Shopify. We've got a bunch of channels and APIs connected to the Shopify and wholesale as well.
Okay, super interesting.
So what would you say is the proportion of your business now?
With Amazon or?
Like Amazon, D2C, Shopify, and wholesale?
Yeah, Amazon is globally about 40% of our sales. Doesn't mean it's 40% of our profits. We are actually a lot more profitable in B2B stuff. Shopify is great, obviously. It's just getting the traffic that is really challenging. We really focused specifically after COVID when volume died down and purchasing intent died down as well. People had other goals or objectives with their saved money to really diversify. I've always tried to immediately get more channels because Amazon is super risky. You don't own a business, you own a product listing. You have nothing. That's just the blunt way of saying it, but it's true. Today, we are more of a normal company with real people and partners that we work with.
Yeah, because I think through marketplaces, it's really hard to get retention. You can do the old school way of carts to encourage repeat purchases, reviews, and all that. But besides that, you don't really own the customer list as much.
You don't,
Yeah, so I think from a Shopify D2C standpoint, I think there are much more obvious paths to encouraging retention.
Actually, speaking of control, I can imagine that's probably one of the things that you like the most about being on Shopify, that you get sort of all of the data and you get the visibility and control over your customers.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because there are many paths to market to the customer, especially email marketing. That's what they say about social media as well, right? You don't technically own your community if they're on social media because they can unfollow anytime. The algorithm's not going to show your content if you don't pay for it. So I'm always looking for ways to diversify away from that as well. Something we're quite new to that I'm excited about is testing out affiliates. We've been very hands-on with cultivating a global creator community. At this point, 1 year in, we've worked with, I would say, close to 200 creators already. Many of them are micro-influencers, so on the smaller end, and they are mostly gifted. We're starting to introduce an affiliate program for select creators that we know will bring in results because based on our pilots, they've already had purchases with their codes. That's one path to diversifying away from Meta. I'm excited to explore so many more channels this year as we're in a better place now.
You mentioned working with micro-influencers and lots of creators to grow your business. Would you say that's the main growth lever for your Instagram traction?
For sure. I'm also still quite involved with content. I do have freelancers helping out on the content side. As a solo founder, I actively try to position our products in a really specific way with creators. Our products are a little bit more feminine, but at the same time, they're very functional. We usually provide some creative direction based on what that creator's style is. And this increases the likelihood that the content is usable. And when I say usable, I mean across all channels. We use the UGC content on our website. We use it in our newsletters. We use it in our ads. We really try to make the most out of every piece of content to showcase the product in a new and exciting way. And then on top of that, for select creators, we have an added bonus of being able to offer some sort of affiliate incentives. So they're able to encourage purchases with their audience and are more likely to share our products.
Did you have any unexpected growth moments that really caught you off guard in the last year of running your business?
I would say one particularly memorable moment is when we worked with one creator. They're pretty small, but they were super fast growing. That was our most viral piece of content. It hit 1.6 million views on Instagram.
Wow.
And that made that product take off. Now it's our best selling product. We're constantly out of stock and always looking to replenish. That was really interesting because organically on our own, we've not had virality to that level. Our most viral post on our own is currently like 700K views, but hitting 1 million is pretty impressive for a creator of that size. So that was really surprising for us, and also a really exciting moment that there's so many people who are interested in our products.
I've got a question here, but what would you advise then for a brand like us? We're not really doing much on Instagram. If you had to start over on Instagram, what would you kind of skip and what would you perhaps prioritize?
I think now the landscape is so UGC driven. So it's really about authentic, real content that fits the personality of the creator. Honestly, like I love to talk endlessly about this after this podcast as well, because I feel like there's so much to dig into for Instagram marketing. And I've been doing marketing for about a decade, and I've seen the landscape shift. Most recently, I was at TikTok, which is also a social media type business. And I think consumers are now demanding a lot of authenticity. Working with a micro influencer with not a big following, you can still get a lot of views and a lot of reach if the content is interesting. It doesn't really matter how many followers they have at this point. You would see accounts with a couple thousand followers being able to hit these influential metrics.
Wow.
Oh, incredible. What about you, Quentin? Did you have any unexpected growth moments that caught you off guard in running Rocks?
Positively or negatively?
Actually, both. If you have an example.
I'll go with perhaps a negative to go on a different route here. But I think inventory, as you grow and as you try to continue in that really tough Amazon mindset of expanding countries and expanding warehouses, expanding liabilities with tax implications. If you have good results and you are excited with new product launches, that comes with inventory. The more warehouses you have, the more risk perhaps, but most importantly, management, right? Because products need to move. For me, I think we kind of looked at Amazon and perhaps just e-com in general. If we duplicate our products and have more products, we'll have more sales. It doesn't work. It's just not true. You can have more products and the market doesn't get bigger. And then you can have more products and then there's just more competitors or there's just pricing going down. So we actually make more money with less products now than we made in the past with more products. And I think if you can manage your growth with proper planning and strategy around looking at your assortment and thinking, okay, this is for this type of client, this is for this type of shops, and really getting your best sellers there only and really scaling that, that's really enough to do a lot already. I wish we had colors and variants, but we don't. If you really have to go with new developments, it's very costly. It's also a long time to get samples and get things done. I think a big misconception is that people think you can launch products in 2 weeks. It's just not true, right? I mean, it takes time, and I think the more time it takes, usually I would argue the better the product is going to be. My advice would be take time, but plan well. You don't want to have 3 containers sitting in the UK or Germany not moving.
I sometimes fantasize about having a single product business as well. I look at like all of these other pet categories like pet care where you can really simplify things and just, have a very limited SKU range. But we've kind of taken the opposite route where we have so many SKUs and so many color variants, which presents the exact challenges that Quentin mentioned. But at the same time, I find it super exciting to be able to co-create and always be developing new products and sort of going down that fashion angle a little bit. In the future, if I were to start another brand, I'm definitely not going to have the energy for another multi-SKU fashion direction business. I would want to go down that approach, which is much less stressful from a product development standpoint. So to all the potential founders out there, definitely think hard about which approach you want to go down, because there's no one right approach as long as it makes sense for you as a founder and there is founder market fit. I think that is super important.
So Quentin, can you walk us through how did you land your first duty-free deal?
Yeah, so I was pretty lucky, to be fair. We had been in business for about 6 years at that point. When you accumulate thousands of reviews and you have your market fit and you know exactly your products and markets, things accelerate, I would say, for B2B and are getting easier. We actually were contacted by the Korean Air team and their agent in Korea. Korean Air was looking for an accessory for their in-flight duty-free shopping magazine. Those are the trolleys going through the planes and people can shop through the magazine. It's still a big thing. Korean Air sells like over 200 million a year just in-flight. Emirates is second, Singapore Airlines is third. So it's a very interesting market. It's travel retail. It's a huge market. We call it the biggest country in the world. It's huge in volume. I think what happened for us is once we got Korean Air, without knowing that they were the biggest one in the industry, by pure luck, to be honest, I then kind of doubled down on it because I saw we had a really good market fit. We sold a lot of volume with them, and then we pushed with trade shows. The biggest one is called TFWA. That's the duty-free trade show. It happens in Singapore next week, actually, and then in Cannes, and also in the US and elsewhere. But connecting with the agents, the distributors that are handling those markets, doing a lot of press as well. We participated in Travel Retail Awards. We won one of them. We were finalists in the other one. Super exciting. Just getting in front of all the biggest players. When you're a small brand, duty-free is really traditionally reserved for the biggest names out there. You don't have the marketing budgets. You don't have the teams. You have barely anything to fight against these guys, and no one would listen. My advice would be, if no one listens, make noise. So go in the awards, participate, pay for PR in the same magazines and newsletters that buyers are potentially reading, and cold email a lot, but then follow up with actually showing up to the trade shows and being there. That's what landed us our deals. We got, I think, about 14 airlines in total, Emirates this year still. And so it's been really exciting. It's an amazing market. I don't think, however, it's suited for everyone or for every brand. It takes a lot of effort, and the return is very uncertain. You have a lot of marketing spent upfront, a lot of logistics requirements because you have to deliver very quickly. And then if you don't sell, you have to buy back all your products. So it's a nightmare, to be honest, if it doesn't go well. And also product fit, right? I mean, we're still talking about the travel industry, so they're usually mindful of what they're selecting. Usually liquor is a big category, specifically in Asia, but otherwise it will be perfumes, cosmetics, and accessories. But if you have a specific angle or a creative way to show that you have a great product fitted for perhaps families or people traveling with their dogs and they need an accessory, you got to paint that story for the buyer. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wow, it's fascinating. For me, what's very interesting that you mentioned cold emailing and being relentless in it, and then actually showing up in person in a completely unrelated industry, fashion. In my venture capital days, I remember speaking to this founder, and they were only a few years old, I think like 2 or 3 year old brand. And they sent me their pitch deck, and I look, and they have all these celebrities wearing that. Kylie Jenner, Hailey Bieber, like everybody. And I was just like, how did you guys do this? This is incredible. What's your background? And the background is not in fashion. The background is not, like, it's one thing if you come from like a magazine, maybe stylists. They know nobody. And I was like, how did you guys do it? Oh, relentless harassment of stylists. They were like, what they've done, they went on Instagram, and very often you can see like styled by. So they just generated this list of all the stylists who they know work with celebrities. They kept sending them their brand books. They kept sending them their looks, being like, here we are. We can send you like, and eventually people will reply just to stop you from emailing them, being like, okay, great, you can send us your stuff, fine, sure. And then, but their stuff is amazing quality, like, like that's where you can say, like, then you can actually show up, because when the shoes do show up at the stylist, so they look at it like, oh, this is actually amazing. It goes with everything. It's like this understated classic, amazing. And so through that, they managed to get all this stuff, because you need to get one. And then you use that to get to everybody else. But, oh, by the way, like Kylie Jenner is wearing our shoes, and then everybody else is listening.
I will say, though, just to perhaps close on this, but with the emailing, you got to be very careful with B2B, especially if we're looking at big retailers or travel retail. There's only a handful of buyers for a handful of companies. So you don't want to burn bridges, and you don't want to be that guy who is annoying. The way that I've looked at it is only email as a follow-up with something as news to share. So for us, it would be, hey, we're listed on Emirates now. Let me know if you want to meet or have a call. Or, hey, we're attending the trade show. We're at this stand. Let me know. We'd love to invite you over. Like, it has to be professional, but also meaningful for them to read. If it's just like, hey, did you receive my email? It's not good, right? I mean, that's my philosophy. You can also share PR articles. If you do some PR, or if you have a new product release, make it a press release. Have that link shared in the email to follow up with that retailer, instead of just writing, hey, we'd love to have your products or our products, etc. Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, Roslyn, for someone launching a brand tomorrow, what should they actually be thinking about when they choose their distribution channel?
That's a great question. I think keeping in mind the unit economics, for example, what your margins are like for your products, given the cost structure, not just of the products itself, but also of storing it, is super important because platforms such as Amazon marketplaces traditionally have slimmer margins. So you need to be aware of how your competitors are priced versus how you potentially are going to be priced, and whether you can, for example, afford to be on a marketplace, or whether you should be focusing a lot more on D2C, or whether you should be more wholesale focused. So I would say doing that bit of research and being aware of the competitive landscape and of your margins.
And Quentin, do you have anything to add to
Yeah,
it?
keep your budgets. Just understand what you can do with how much money you have. That's a big one, I think.
And what's one mistake that you have made that you would warn other founders about?
If you have a winning product, don't try to create another brand. If you like what you've done, just double down and continue. There's no such thing as a perfect business or perfect brand, but it's very important to cut all distractions. If you have something working, perfect it.
Does this come from having multiple businesses at the start?
Yeah, I had cutting boards from Indonesia. I had
Wow.
a supplement brand in the US. I had bakery tools. There's a lot of stuff I tried, thinking that I could duplicate and replicate. It's not true. It's not true, because I think, first of all, you have to really love what you're doing. And I think you have to have that connection with the product. My first product was the rocks, and it's still where I have the most passion in the wines and spirits industry. Just continue growing what you've been growing already.
Yeah.
And what about you, Roslyn? Do you have any mistake that you'd like to warn founders about?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything big that comes to mind. But one thing you did bring up was launch strategy. I've seen so many brands successfully use founder-driven messaging to tease out products even before the suppliers have the goods ready. I find that fascinating. In our case, I wish I did more of that, putting myself out there. And I think you, Anya, do a great job of putting yourself as the face of your business. That is one regret that I have, because we've chosen to build our brand in a more faceless and community way.
I think there's always opportunity to start doing that. So I don't think it's a missed opportunity or regret per se.
For sure. Yeah. And I think right now, if you're going with a social media first approach, definitely be willing to share your story. People like getting personal with new brands. It really helps, not just with the metrics, but with authentic brand building and community growth.
And a question for both of you. What is the one tactic that sounds sexy on Reddit or Twitter or somewhere on LinkedIn you see going viral that you feel like actually doesn't work in reality?
We were talking briefly about drop shipping. But I'm curious if drop shipping businesses are still working well in this climate.
With the tariffs and all.
In this tariff-driven climate, I think because there are so many drop shipping businesses out there and online marketplaces, stores are so saturated, that's something I'm super skeptical about at the moment.
I agree. I'll just add that, there's no such thing as passive income, first of all. It's a lot of work. Where it matters is the product. You have to be driven by the value there. The moment you lose sight of value in your business and in your product, it becomes a problem. Sometimes you will have to make investments that require risk and bold moves. Thinking that you can just stay behind your computer and grow a multi-million-dollar business is, in my view, incorrect. At the same time, with the power of internet and influencer marketing, you have the ability to do crazy volumes in just a few minutes or hours. So it's a bit of a balance, I guess.
Amazing. So I think let's do a closing rapid fire round where I will address you guys a question and then you give me like a really short one-worded answer if possible. Roslyn, what's one sales channel you haven't tried yet but want to?
Retail.
Quentin, what brand has been inspiring you lately?
I love Brewmate. It's an insulated cup or drinkware brand. Big on innovating products.
Shopify or Amazon, if you can only pick one?
Leaning towards Shopify.
Roslyn, what is the most surprising thing that you've learned about your customer base?
How crazy they are. They're as crazy as me.
About their dogs and spending money on them.
I have 3 pets, not just a dog. I have 2 cats too, but literally they are my children. And it's crazy finding thousands of people who share that same thing and they actually sign off their emails sometimes with our brand name, which I find super cool.
That's
They're
so
like,
cute.
oh yeah, me and my furry muses, XYZ, you know? Yeah.
Quentin, what's one tip you would give to your 2020 self?
I was gonna say patience, but that's not very fun. Maybe back to the inventory or just like growing too aggressively, just being cautious on product launches if you have to buy stock ahead.
Roslyn, this is a bit of a fun one. If your brand had a theme song, what would it be?
Ooh. A theme. I'm gonna have to think about that. That is tough.
Quentin, do you want to think about that one? If Rocks had a theme song, what would it be?
I mean, it's either going to be like a New Orleans jazz thing, but that's boring. I was going to say 50 Cent or something, but it's just not our client base.
So you, Quentin, it needs to be you.
Be our client.
I was listening to Charlie XCX on the way here. I really like Von Dutch, which is really fun. The attitude, you know, you don't care, you're fashionable, you're that it girl, and your dog is the main character in your life. So many of our customers spend as much time on their dog's Instagram as they do on their own Instagram. Like their dog has their own personality. Yeah, so that was someone that came to mind.
Love that. Let's wrap up the episode with the fill in the blank section. Well, I say a sentence with a blank and then you fill in the blank. Roslyn, the most underrated growth strategy is?
I'm really surprised because we did our first event last month. And our newsletter from Going IRL is our best performing newsletter ever, even better than Black Friday.
Oh. And Quentin, what is the most underrated growth strategy for you?
I think just cold emailing if you're looking at retail.
Quentin, one thing you believed in when you started your brand but don't anymore is?
That you can scale past 10,000 clients or 2 million. At one point, it just stops. You need to change or evolve your product or your channels. It doesn't continue.
And Roslyn, for you, one thing you believed in when you first started Furry Muse but don't anymore?
I actually thought it was a simple business, but that was a mistake. Every day I'm like, all right, this is not the simple business I thought I was going to do.
Yeah, it's like once you actually start doing it, like sourcing and everything, oh my goodness.
I think there's a lot of complexities for people working on their businesses in the background. Lots of like entrepreneurs who have their day jobs and, you know, they're just doing that initial research. It's not the same as just launching into it and coming to terms with the day-to-day challenges because they're so multifaceted. And you never know what challenge is going to hit you next. For example, a few weeks ago, we saw the store that stole all our images on social media and were running ads with our images. Their website was an exact copy of our website structure. They only listed some products. So I didn't expect to have to deal with copyright and DMCA 1 year into the business. That was really surprising for me. And it's like a new challenge hits you every day.
Wow, that's
I had that
fascinating.
happen on Alibaba many times. So I would just contact them as a buyer and then get them on WeChat. And then I speak Chinese. So I call them up and speak Chinese. I'm like, hey, I'm actually the boss of the company of the product, the photo you just posted. And then you try to work it out amicably because you also don't want them to be on your back for years. But definitely so much to
Stuff like
handle.
Yeah, this was scary. We literally had someone inform us that someone was running ads with our imagery. I think the Alibaba thing is also super common. Every business will eventually face that with copycats.
Thank you guys so much for today's conversation. It was great having both of you. I think it was an incredibly insightful and very deep conversation. I think honestly there is enough for like 2 podcasts here. But
Thank you so much.
if any of the audience enjoyed this episode, please give it a review and share with a founder who you think would love to hear it. I'll leave the links to both Roslyn's and Quentin's business in the description box down below. Thank you guys so much.